All right, so anything to ask? Anything? And have you tried the question on modernity and emergence of sociology? All right, fine. The same question was in assignment also. All right, fine. Same thing. So how many of you wrote assignment in that case? Again, I have to request then. Now, as I told you, don't miss it out, right? I understand. I told you earlier also, don't try to be perfect. Try to be disciplined, and suddenly you'll see that something is emerging. Don't expect that I shall be writing very good, then only I will write. It's other way around. You will write and you'll keep on writing, and then suddenly you'll see that things had started improving. So, if nothing to ask, in the previous class, we tried to understand that what is correlation between modernity and changes in Europe and the emergence of sociology as a subject. Before that, we have already talked about that what exactly it means when we say sociology, and a bit briefly, but we also talked about that what is the approach you should follow in paper one and so and so. So in the previous class, we tried to understand, I told you what is sociology in the first place. If you have to define sociology, as Agascombe rightly said, if there are n number of disciplines, there should be another n plus one to consolidate them all, and that is what is sociology. By nature, sociology, you can say, is generic. It's a generic science. Why generic science? Because it consolidates various disciplines instead of going deeper in one dimension of it. It is a pure science. At least Auguste Comte was saying that way. When he was saying pure science, he was trying to say it is something which is based on observations and generalizations based on observation. That means positivistic approach. He also said that, in a way, to define that sociology is what? Scientific study of social institutions, society, social institutions, process, and interactions. We have also discussed a little bit briefly about that what has been the history of mankind through the lens of Jacob Bronsky in The Ascent of Man. And then we tried to understand that what were those major changes in Europe which resulted in modernity and subsequently in emergence of sociology. I told you that if I trace the history of Europe, especially the Western Europe, but we should be saying Europe. If we trace the history of Europe, there was Roman Empire, and Roman Empire could be called as pinnacle or the golden period of the ancient days. But after the decline of the Roman Empire, and there were several reasons for the decline of Roman Empire, but after the decline of Roman Empire, the Dark Age started. And Dark Age is something chronologically you can trace from 5th century to 15th century. And what were the key features of Dark Age? That during this time, traditionalization of the society started. People started being more conservative. Predominance of religion came up into day-to-day life. And if religion solicits faith. So as there was predominance of religion, individualism was subordinated. Whenever individualism is subordinated, naturally you'll see that creativity is suppressed, innovations is something which reduces. And that is how the Dark Age was characterized by these phases. And then happened Magna Carta. Magna Carta, though, was a kind of political thing, but it has its own psychological whirlpool on the psyche of the mankind. Because once they started participating in decision making, the creativity started again, and you'll see that UK became center of industrial progress. This industrial progress subsequently in 18th century was called industrial revolution. So this industrial progress, which started in let's say 15th 16th century in UK, resulted in what you can say development of various trader class, the newly emerging trader class, and the economy got shifted from subsistence economy to market-led economy. In what are the key features of market-led economy? As a market-led economy, there will be markets where people will be involved into non-agricultural activities. That means there will be promotion of urbanization. Urban lifestyle will come. If urban lifestyles are there, families will get smaller in size. So all these things were witnessed in UK. And as we got market-led economies now, in pursuit of market, They started traveling via sea route to various countries, where they came across North and South America, they came across Africa, they came across India, Ceylon, and other countries. And on the other hand, they entered into mainland Europe by crossing English Channel. Now, once they entered into the mainland Europe, what happened? In mainland Europe, that time society was of feudal order. There were feudal lords, and these feudal lords were having their own laborers. Payments were done in kind. Now, these kind of traders, as they traveled in various nook and corner of the world, they got plenty of gold and silver. This obviously made them prosperous, and it was going to be advantageous to them soon. Meanwhile, when they entered into the mainland Europe, initially they were welcomed by the feudal lords because they were doing trade, and feudal lords did not see any harm in that. But then epidemic of plague happened. Now, epidemic of plague was a turning point. Because of the epidemic of the plague, what happened now? There was a dearth of labor. A sizable population died. As per the statistics, more than 47% of the population died in the Western Europe that time due to the epidemic of plague. So as there was dearth of labor, there was clash between feudal lords and traders. Traders turned to be winners. Why? Because they could pay in cash instead of kind, and they were more organized. When these feudal lords started realizing that they are losing the game, they are missing it, what they did, they made a nexus with the clergy. Clergy here means priestly class. And the clergy started now bullying or making them scared, the labor forces and all, with the help of religion. Now, needless to say, religion became very orthodoxial. And as a counter response to that, intelligentsia started saying that this is not the right approach to look at the world, to look at the existence, to look at the realities around. You should not be understanding things from the religious vantage point or from the religious viewpoint. On the contrary, you should be trying to understand in a scientific temperament. I told you this time period is called Renaissance, when they started saying one by one, through their art and literature, through their political philosophies, through their other works, they started saying that let's get back to the olden Roman Empire order. And we witnessed a paradigm shift. Paradigm shift, now I'm talking about 16th, 17th century. We witnessed a paradigm shift where it was advocated that we should observe, we should understand realities, not with the religious explanations. So religious explanations say, I am here because of God. Scientific explanation will try to understand the process of evolution. So we should not try to understand the reality, the existence around us through the lenses of religion, through the vantage point of religion. On the contrary, we must try to understand it scientifically, be it your political institution, be it your historical contexts, be it the geography of a given area, be it, let's say how economic activities are taking place, and so and so. And that's how we got n number of disciplines coming up. So modernity is what? Modernity is that paradigm shift of thought process where the existence was inquired with a scientific temperament based upon rationality, reflexivity, supporting secularism, democratic values, and individualism. Now, the key words are secular, democratic, individual, rationality, reflexivity, paradigm shift in thought process. Now, you can use your own words to write that what modernity is. So modernity is that process. And that's why we say that now we are going modern. And wherever it was adopted, from that time, we call it modern time, modern India, modern Europe, and so and so. So this way, modernity came up. And this modernity, when was mixed with other social conditions, economic conditions were, as you know, that industrial growth was there, urban life came up, nuclear families came up, there was dearth of labor. If you see the political conditions, I told you that time, now various political thinkers supporting Renaissance, especially Montesquieu, Rousseau. These 2-3 names are important. Montesquieu was there, who said separation of power. Before that, we thought it's all religious power. Second was Rousseau, who believed that there should be a general will, and that talks about that individual should be freed also. Then we got Adam Smith, which supported capitalism. Now, before I move further, I'll stop here for a moment. I will digress, but that's needed. Other day after the class, 1-2 student came and said, "Sir, can we add Thomas Hobbes also?" It's up to you. There were many people. They all are equally important. You can add Machiavelli, you can add Thomas Hobbes, whatever name coming in your mind. But these are of profound, you can say, impact. That's why we are talking about them. Otherwise, the list is quite long. Obviously, there were not only 4 or 5 thinkers that time. There were maybe hundreds of them, which has influenced the Europe in their own way. But at least 3 names you must remember. One is Montesquieu, another is Rousseau, another is Adam Smith. If somebody want to add J.S. Mill, if somebody want to talk about, let's say, Thomas Hobbes, all of them are accepted. These names will be more familiar when we'll do that 7th topic, politics and society. So going back, you can use those names also. So this is how we got modernity and economic conditions. Political conditions, I told you, started changing with the French Revolution, Civil War in Europe. Then we got what you can call as changing social conditions. Social conditions were also changing, where people were now urging for secular ethos, individualism, and these kind of things. This modernity, along with these social conditions, compelled or asked a few questions to be answered scientifically. And that's how we got emergence of various disciplines in humanities, be it history, be it geography, be it economics, be it political science, and so on. And then came Auguste Comte, who believed if there are n number of disciplines, there should be another n+1 to consolidate them, one to be called as sociology, or the queen of the subjects. I hope this chronology is clear to all of you. You can present in chart, you can present in pie diagram, you can write in points, paragraphs. I give this freedom to you, because this would be too much to say. Because this is one thing which did me the most when you come to me and ask, sir, how to write this part. Some people have this problem, that's why I'm saying it. Look, you can write in points, you can write in paragraph, you can write in pie diagram, chart. What is important is in what way you can present yourself effectively, and that you know yourself. There are no standard way of driving, which is applicable to all of us. Everyone has our own style, right? I have seen way back second ranker, I shouldn't name her because I'm on air, but way back, she got sociology optional. She used to write in paragraphs. Her answers were quite paragraphic. So that has also fetched marks. And then if you see that that boy last year, he used to write in points. So whether you're writing in points, whether you're writing in paragraph, whether you're writing in pie diagram, what is the thumb rule is that your answer should be, your communication should be effective. And you will be knowing it better. There are people, they write, like, there is no standard way of teaching. Some teacher use more boards, I use less board. Everyone has their own way. You can't say this is the right one and that's the wrong one. Each one has its own style. I believe that if I could make abstraction in your mind, that remains for longer. That remains for longer because now it is somewhere registered in the mind. Remember that abstraction capacities? I try to hit that. Because having pictographic memory is difficult. But having that abstraction and make your own story, that is easier. So it's up to you in what way you write, but make sure these are the key words that should be reflected. Making sense? We also talked about that what exactly it means when we say modernity. And then I told you that there are certain viewpoints on modernity by various thinkers. In that one name you must not miss, and that is T.B. Baltimore. T.B. Baltimore said that modernity was an outcome of certain things, where he highlighted what? A was political philosophy. Second was philosophy of history. Third was what you can say Darwin's impact. Darwin theory has impacted thought process. Fourth was what you can say in terms of various socio-religious reforms which were taking place in Europe that time. And some other things also he added, like one thing could be called that scientific temperament of survey and all. That's what T.B. Baltimore said. Similarly, according to Weber said it is because of modernity is an outcome of rationality. When we started examining everything in terms of rationality. And what is rationality? When you understand the cause and effect, when you calculate the input and output. So cause and effect, calculation of input and output, understanding methodology, these things are what we call rationality. And what is reflexivity, which Anthony Giddens highlighted? Reflexivity is to understand that there are always scope of improvement. So that is how different people have different views on modernity. This you can say sociological views on modernity. Even Harlambus had to say something. Harlambus wrote in his book. So for him, modernity was nothing but this very understanding that they could and they should change. This could is very important. Could does wonder. Before that, we thought it's all predestined, what we can do. It's all predestined. In fact, there's another thing which you should understand, which why Harlambus is saying they could or they should. Harlambus said they could change and they would change. This is what was, because the older Christianity, especially the Catholic, in Catholic we believe this life is a punishment. Punishment because those Adam and Eve have taken forbidden apple. Now if God forbidden, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, trust me. Let's say if this classroom I have to teach out of punishment, how will be my behavior? Least interested here and continuously working how to come out of this punishment, how to get acquittal as soon as possible, isn't it? So when you have negation of life, why you would change? You will be praying more, you will try to get out of this sin. And if you believe, no, this is my life, this is the classroom, harder I work, better I get, I will be behaving differently. Needless to say. So that is what he said modernity has come up. So modernity was outcome of this mindset that you could and you should change. So this is how there different people have their own viewpoints on what is modernity. I hope that part is clear to you. We have not written perhaps this modernity part. And then I said that let's talk about some thinkers also, like what early thinkers had said, like Saint-Simon, Auguste Comte. So we can write side by side. Now there are a few questions. Can you please repeat yesterday's assignment question? All right, class mails. All right, so it's there on the class mail. You can refer it there. In which IGNOU material I found this emergence of sociology that you explained? It's MA Sociology material. MA Sociology material, there is chapter of modernity in Europe and modernity in Europe and emergence of sociology. By the way, you need not to go that far because maximum scope is one question of short note nature. If I trace in last 30 years, rather 40 years, only once a large question was asked. And that was, I think, year 1979. We were observing centenary of French Revolution. That's why they asked full-length question, French Revolution and the emergence of sociology. So by that time, by that logic, it might be useful in 2079. No, but jokes apart, even if the question of 300 words you have to write, this is good enough. Fine, but as a reference you can refer to. So this is how we got when we talk about modernity. Let's write that part. But before that, I would like to acknowledge one thing. I was told, and some students had that concern, that maybe in the last class I spoke a little Hindi, too much of Hindi. Let me tell you one thing. I know in that case we may have that fear, what do you call it, FOMO, fear of missing out something. It's not the case. I am bound to say everything in English which is relevant. Maybe at times I'm saying something informal that may go in Hindi. But the problem is that cannot be translated. It's bound to be lost in translation. There's a problem. Humors cannot be translated in any other language. They only work in their native language. That's the problem with the humors. So don't worry, but then even I'll try to translate, no matter how poorly that would be. But I would try to translate that also. Because trust me, humors cannot be translated. Like I'm saying one line. Those who are good in English and Hindi both, please do translate it for me without getting the essence lost. And those from Northern India can understand it better. There is a line from my all-time favorite book. One of the books which I have read several times and still not done with it. The name of the book is Rag Darbari, written by one IAS officer from UP cadre. If someone is IAS and UP cadre and survived, he knows the trade secrets. So, wonderful book, Rag Darbari. It has also got the best of the awards also. There's a line in that book, election ka result kya aaya, Sukla ji sukulwa ho gaye. Suklaji have lost the election, तो शुक्लवा हो गया. Now this line cannot be translated in any other language. This book is a classical example that many people from BHU to JNU, English department, tried to translate it, but so poorly. So at some point they stopped. Though translations are available. Now this line cannot be translated. Even humor will be lost. Those who are from, if I have to translate, Suklaji is a respectful word. Sukalva is more a derogatory word for someone who's fit for nothing. Now essence is lost. So this is my request to all of you, those who are not, because I know only 40% people speak Hindi in India. 60% don't. They are of other languages. So obviously, Hindi alone cannot be considered that way. But then even. So I'll make sure that if I'm saying something which is humorous, I'll try to translate also. Otherwise, something related to subject, I'm bound to say in English. That's my moral responsibility. So wonderful book, if anyone interested, by the way, Rag Darbari. Another line, ये दो line try translate करके बताइएगा मुझे. So when I said election का result क्या है, शुक्ला जी शुक्लवा हो गए. Another line very difficult to translate. और मंत्री जी को खाना इतना पसंद आया था कि पाचन नलिका के दोनों सिरे वाह वाह कर रहे थे. I don't know whether you have been in this hilarious situation ever or not. Both the sides of alimentary canal, he has overeaten actually. So, burping and, so at the same time, both the sides of alimentary canal making noise from burping to dash, dash, dash. So, by the way, but in the original text, it sounds very, attractive. Wonderful satire though. Khair. I will refer even to understand second paper. This book could be of very practical significance. Let me quote one line again, which may be related to our subject. There's a line, वो लोग जो मुंह से आए थे, मुंह का इस्तेमाल करके तब तक राज करते रहे, जब तक वो लोग जो पैर से आए थे, पैर का इस्तेमाल करना नहीं शुरू कर दिए. Those who are not knowing the context, as per our religious explanation, Brahmins came from the mouth and Dalits came from the legs. So those who came from the mouth went on ruling as long as those who came from the leg have not started charging it. So this is a big satire, on the caste system. And why he's saying so? Because there is a concept, Adi Purush, which explains the caste system. And Gandhiji said, those who are on the leg side are closer to God, Harijan. That's how the term came. Why Gandhiji said this way? Because if you know the context, in the epic of Mahabharata, Arjun was sitting on the leg side. अब इस बुक का सटायर सुनिए. वो लोग जो मुंह से आए थे, मुंह का इस्तेमाल करके तब तक राज करते रहे, जब तक वो लोग जो पैर से आए थे, पैर का इस्तेमाल करना नहीं शुरू किया. Those who came from the mouth went on ruling as long as those who are from leg have not started charging it. But this Adi Purush who was standing, Gandhi made him flat. अगर आदि पुरुष सो रहे होंगे तभी तो हरिजन आएंगे. Because then those who are beloved, this is satire, pure satire. So these kind of humors cannot be translated. This is what I'm trying to say, lost in translation kind of thing. But I'll make sure that I'm not saying anything which you might be related to subject and you could not understand because of the language. That's why I told you language should not be a barrier. And I'm happy that you came out that way. Fine. So there's a movie called Heretic, yes, which talks about religion of the world. All the religion, by and large, talks about what? It's all about the, we'll talk about it in Air's topic also, that religion and comparative mythology, what you call. Now you can write that sociological viewpoints on modernity. Sociological viewpoints on modernity. Sociological viewpoints on modernity. According to T.B. Baltimore, the modernity was outcome of T.B. Baltimore. The modernity was outcome of following factors. Outcome of following factors. Following factors. You can write 1, 2, 3. First, new political philosophies. new political philosophies, new political philosophies like new political philosophies like that of Montesquieu, separation of power, Rousseau, idea of common will, Rousseau's idea of common will. Now you know, you're familiar with these people. Rousseau's idea of common will, idea of liberty, ideas of liberty, equality from French Revolution, encouraged people to re-examine authority structures, Fine. Because before that, you're accepting whatever religious authorities were, they are divine. But now you re-examine it. So re-examine authority structures. Second was, this was first. Second was Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin's explanations on emergence and evolution of life provided altogether different views than religion. Provided altogether different views than religion. Religion was saying something else, and Darwin explained something else than religion. Which had profound impact on the individuals. It's like a fresh air when something very toxic has been explained to you, and suddenly it seems as if someone opened the window. When you're making me scared on everything of using religion, and this is the reason. अब आप सोचिए, the way you are being explained in your religions that these are the sins, these are the things, and you will be punished this way, and blah blah blah, and then suddenly says, "Oh, grow up. You came from inorganic to organic, and substances came. This revolution happened, oxygen revolution, and life came this way, first in the sea, and then on amphibious, and then on earth." It was a fresh air. So that's why Darwin's impact was profound. When it was in science, but we realized that all these things, I wanted to use a different word, but I'm trying to make a modest word. All these things which religion was explained that time is therefore crud, though something else similar was coming in my mind. So this is how they started realizing that it's all crud, and actual scientific reasons of evolution are these. This, in a way, departed us from religious thing, and we started thinking, okay, let's inquire other things also then. So that's why T.V. Baltimore is saying that Darwin's theory had its own impact. Third was philosophy of history. This approach advocates that historical context must be examined. Historical context must be examined. Must be examined in scientific way. In scientific way, unlike traditional explanations. Unlike traditional explanations. Unlike traditional explanations, where myth and realities were mixed. Unlike traditional explanations, where myth and realities were mixed. This has been the problem of history before 16th century. Myth and realities were mixed. अब आप अपनी look at history of your own. It seems like that something is true also, but something has been exaggerated also. So myth and realities has been mixed. I hope I'm not hurting anyone's religious sentiment by saying this, but if you're saying that on earth there's a fellow who can soak up the entire ocean. Now, this seems a bit, discontinued kind of. It seems somewhere exaggeration is going on. This is where myth and realities are mixed. So earlier historical explanations were what? Mixed. It was mix of myth and realities. King and kingdom were glorified, larger than size. But now we said no, it should be contextually seen. And that's where, that was a time, Toynbee, I'll talk about this man in Social Change. Toynbee wrote a history, history of civilization. That was the time Hegel talked about it. So the many people who has explained a lot of things. As of now, you can write one name. For example, the way Toynbee की हम अलग से बात करेंगे उस चैप्टर में, 10th चैप्टर में. The way Toynbee has explained rise and fall of civilization. Toynbee has explained the rise and fall of civilizations. It's a wonderful study of Toynbee. All 21 ancient civilizations from Sinic civilization. Sinic means China. Sino is China, na? So Sinic civilization, Mayan civilization. Mayan civilization is today's Latin America. So Sinic civilization, Mayan civilization, Indian civilization, then Mesopotamian civilization. All these civilizations were compared by Toynbee. It's a wonderful study where he tried to understand why things has happened, why rise and fall of the king and kingdoms. So have studied the history of civilization. This is another thing which has impacted modernity, because these explanations started attracting people to understand humanities in more scientific way. Next was various socio-political reforms. Various socio-political reforms in Europe. Various socio-political reforms in Europe. Fourth one. So third was philosophy of history. Fourth one is various socio-political reforms in Europe. Various socio-political reforms in Europe. During 16th, 17th century, during 16th, 17th century, various socio-political reforms against orthodoxy. Various socio-political reforms against orthodoxy were observed. जैसे हमारे यहाँ आप देखते हो कि we have seen in 19th century ना, that how many people have came up or observed, which had its impact in changing mindset, which had its impact on changing mindsets. Because we are trying to understand it from where this shift came. So these were things, the reason why it happened. Changing mindsets. Fine. In fact, somebody came other day, a student from perhaps media background or what. She said that, sir, don't you think printing press also can be added? Yes. Because interestingly, that was a time, if you say 16th, 17th century, we got development of printing press. And printing press were promoted by trader class. Now, trader class use this tool to propagate their ideas. One reason for support of modernity further, because priestly class could say to the hundreds, while with the books, I don't know whether you're knowing it or not, and whether you will agree it or not. In last 1,000 years, the biggest innovation is called printing press. It has changed the world forever. Books were printed and thousands of books were printed. People were informed about all these things. So printing press also has its own role. Gutenberg in Germany started printing press, and that has its impact. So when I'm saying socio-religious reforms, even in India also they brought printing press. With what objective? Just to spread those ideas. Copies of Bible, interpretations of Bible, and so and so. And then you got that Hickey's Gadget. The Hickey's Gadget was more a kind of page 3 kind of. Aaj ke time mein what is page 3 na in newspaper, talking about local news. Hickey's Gazette was that only. James Augustus Hickey even started the newspaper. But subsequently in India we have also witnessed that how printing press came. That is your history part. But yes, the same timeline was in Europe, where in Europe these socio-religious reforms were there, and they were spreading with the help of media and other kind of things. So that's another thing which was going to promote modernity. And the fifth one you can add, this was fourth, the fifth one, this all has been said by T.V. Baltimore. Now depending on your requirement, you can make flow chart. If you have to just write in 150 words, make a flow chart, don't detail each of them. Isn't it? If you have to write a little longer, then you can use it. Next is fifth one, use of scientific methodologies like survey, etc. Use of scientific methodologies like survey, etc. Survey, etc. In fact, that was another thing which we have seen that time, that what people think, what are their mindsets, what are their observations. In fact, if you know that, you might have heard of that thing called Asiatic Society by William Jones. Yes, why are you taking time? Which year? Very good. Almost same chronology. So, doesn't matter. It's 1774 though, but chalega itna chalta hai. All right, you were close. So William Jones, when started, that was the same time chronology. In Europe also, people started doing survey, conducting research in scientific way. So this said that yes, we can scientifically study humanities. All these things has helped us to understand it's possible to have positive data, to collect data that way, and so and so. That was also going to have impact on modernity. So promotion of these methods, you can write that. Around 17th, 18th century, around 17th, 18th century, various survey methods for scientific observations were promoted. Scientific observations were promoted to understand realities more objectively. To understand realities more objectively. मैं कहना क्या चाह रहा हूँ, देखिए, let's understand a little more कि what was the importance of it, why T.V. Baltimore is considering it as a factor. Generally what happens when we observe anything, we don't observe it objectively, we put our viewpoints into that. Let me give you some practical example. It happened to me also, it happened to us also, I should say. Other day a teacher was very angry. Not here, somewhere else, just to be on safer side. So a teacher was very angry. I asked him, "Kya hua, sir? You are looking so angry, so furious. All good?" He said, "These days students have become stupid." What happened, sir? They are so disrespectful, teacher. What happened? I thought something bad happened to him, probably. He said, look, I was there in escalator and they have not greeted me. I said, grow up, sir. Please grow up. At least you grow up. They are the kid. You grow up. Now, maybe they are preoccupied in their own things. Because I've already told you, in this age group, you have several challenges, from career to personal life to other things. Maybe you're too preoccupied, you did not notice that teacher was there. It's quite possible. In fact, there is a saying in Urdu that says that हर एक उम्र के फितूर हैं जुदा, कभी खिलौना, कभी माशूका, कभी रुतबा, कभी खुदा. Every age group has their own whims and fancies. When you're a kid, it was toys. In this adolescency, it might be beloved, then power, and then God. Every religion had its own. So maybe you're preoccupied in that. I said, look, what is insult? Insult is when they were throwing ink on you, shoes on you. Walking out, that might be insult. This is not insult ki, they have not greeted you. Now what you're doing is this insult that a student went outside the class? If my colleague is thinking it's an insult, he's not scientific then. Because if a student he went out of the class, and I think it's my insult, actually, that means I don't have trust on my skills. This is how I see. I should ask to the student why you went out. Maybe the student was thinking this way, that I have to go somewhere. Let's take class for at least 1 hour. Maybe he was waiting for a call since eternity and that call came up. Now suddenly priorities got changed. There could be a number of things, unless and until I ask them how I can come to know. Like I have a classical example. I won't name her, but it's a classical example. A student, I still remember vividly, there was a pattern. Every day when I discuss, she listened, and the moment I am dictating, she used to take nap. Now this was a bit weird. That I am discussing, she's listening. The moment I am dictating, she takes nap. It was evening batch, GS batch. Now 1 day, 2 day, 5 day, the pattern continued and did not miss the class either. Had I been unscientific, I would have thought she is not serious and so and so. But being scientific, thanks to this T.B. Bottomo's idea, I thought to ask. So I asked her the day, there's a pattern in your behavior. That when I discuss something, you listen to me, and when I dictate, you sleep. She said, yes, sir, I'm working in that particular office. She used to work day long. She said, this way, sir, when you're dictating, I know you dictate in one go 10-15 minutes, so I can take a nap. And I'll make it Xeroxed, I can write somewhere, sometime else. And this will give me another 1-2 hours to read in the... Now, this was the best respect possible, which I would have taken as disrespect. Now, what has brought this change? I went to that student and asked, survey. Making me modern. I hope I'm making sense. So apparently these surveys might look not that important. We thought we bothered to go. And that's why Samsung came with once a very famous line. Don't give your customer what you think they want. Give them what they want and question that. Give what they want. You should not be deciding here. And that's why I hope I'm not hurting your patriotic sentiment, but it was said by one very famous media personnel in India once that the problem of India is that we do not know what our problem is. We are just guessing sitting here in Delhi that this might be the problem. We need to do surveys. We need to do surveys. We have to identify to the people that what the exactly problem is. By sitting here in AC rooms in South Block, and if you're thinking this is the problem, you're bound to miss the bus. This is the importance of survey. And that is what T.B. Bottomore is I hope I'm making some sense to all of you. So next time, when you think that other is thinking this way, better not to think or bother to have survey. Go to the fellow and ask, this is what I think, what's your take? Maybe you will be surprised on the other arguments. So this way, this was the importance of being scientific. And this scientificity that let's ask to the people has resulted into this modern outlook. That's why, I hope now it's clear to you that why surveys were important. Now you can write that. So what you've written? More objectively. This line is clear to you now? To understand realities more objectively. For example, to understand Indian society better, William Jones started Asiatic Society. William Jones started Asiatic Society roughly in 1774. And subsequently, even census was introduced. Census was introduced. ये surveys का ही large रूप है, census. So subsequently, census was introduced. In India, census was introduced around 1872. That was incomplete, and then 1881 was complete. So the first census India conducted was in 1872, but that was incomplete, inconsistent, and then 1881 it was complete census, and since then every 10 years. Risley was the census commissioner then. So this is how, that is your history, you're reading history. So after these kind of surveys, in UK and Europe, most of the countries started census around 1801. UK started in 1801. So most of the European countries got their surveys in, you can say, early 19th century, in full-fledged census. That was the importance of census. What is census? To understand the things objectively. So this is how we got, when we talk about, these were the 5 things according to Baltimore, which has resulted in modernity. And next you can write, according to Emile Durkheim, modernity was an outcome of social differentiation. According to Emile Durkheim, modernity was outcome of social differentiation. अभी डरखीम तो हम बहुत सारी बातें करेंगे, तो अभी इस पे बहुत नहीं लिखवा रहे हैं. We are not writing much here because डरखीम तो we are going to discuss in detail as it is in your syllabus, no? So we'll understand what exactly social differentiation is talking about. Is the outcome of social differentiation. According to Max Weber, the modernity is outcome of rationality. Where everything was examined in terms of cause and effect. Everything was examined in terms of cause and effect, and in terms of efficiency. But this is very interesting. Much later, even Weber said that too much of rationality is also irrational. आप सोचते हो इसमें फायदा होगा, फायदे का क्या फायदा, ये भी तो बताइए. So too much of rationality is also irrational, is what he said, and that's how he gave that famous quote called iron cage, that we are in iron cage today. That we'll talk about later when we'll talk about Weber. So Weber says it's all because of rationality, and rationality means you are thinking everything in cause and effect, and efficiency, that what is efficient is what you continue. So this is how we got Max Weber. Then next you can say, according to Giddens, I'm giving you 4 or 5 names, T.B. Baltimore, and 1 or 2 more name as per your convenience, you can use it. Now, Giddens, according to Giddens, it was outcome of the reflexivity. outcome of the reflexivity. It was outcome of reflexivity, which advocates that things are not predetermined, and they can be improved. Not predetermined, and they can be improved. That's why even Herlombus said, that modernity was outcome of, in quote unquote you can write, modernity was outcome of you could and you should progress. You could and you should progress. You could and you should progress. In fact, that's why they said not progressing is a sin. So that's how we got this idea of Herlombus. Now, similarly, works of Adorno was in music, art and literature. The work of Adorno in art and literature, promoted modern ethos. Adorno promoted modern ethos. Fine. So that's how we got T.B. Baltimore, we got Giddens, we got Weber, we got Herlombus. These are some of the names you can say. Now, one name, in fact, Marx once said a very good line, that all that was solid once melted in air. Right? The same title was used by one man, Berman. He wrote a book. So Marshall Berman wrote a book with the same title. The book was published around, it's not very late, around 2011, I guess, 10-11. In that book, the title is All That Was Solid Melts in the Air. That was the title of the book. He said, therefore, modernity was that paradigm shift. So just to conclude, you can write, in his book, All That Was Solid Melts in Air, इसका जिक्र हरलम्बस ने किया है. All that was, the new edition, all that was solid melts in air. Marshall Berman highlighted that Marshall Berman highlighted that modernity is response to all those new emerging ideas, which melted all the solid. So cytodels were broken, which melted all the solids. Those who are from English literature or nursery rhyme, you might have heard that line, when the bough breaks, cradle will fall. So the cradle has fallen here. So अब ये phrases हैं जिनको लिटरेचर में पसंद हो उनके लिए है. इट्स अ वेरी फेमस फ्रेज ना, बाव व्हेन द बाव ब्रेक्स क्रैडल विल फॉल. झूला है एक, लकड़ी उससे लगा हुआ, अगर लकड़ी टूट जाएगी तो झूला गिर जाएगा. दिस इज व्हाट इज अ फेमस फ्रेज दे से. सो दैट इज व्हाट ही वाज ट्राइंग टू से. चाहे तो लिख सकते हैं, इसकी जरूरत नहीं है कि. सो दिस इज हाउ ही सेड दैट ऑल दैट वाज सॉलिड मेल्टेड इन द एयर. सो नर्सरी राइम में पढ़ा नहीं है, व्हेन द बाव ब्रेक्स क्रैडल विल फॉल. सर इतना कहाँ याद है. हाँ, फाइन. एनीवेज, so this is how we got when we talk about nursery rhyme का मतलब तो एक twinkle twinkle little star. हाँ, Johnny Johnny, yeah, that's another. So this is how we got when we talk about modernity. Now you can give heading. अच्छा, यहाँ पे एक चीज है जो आपको बाद में हम ऐड करेंगे. we'll write later subsequently when we do the 10th topic, when I'll also talk about critique of modernity, the feminists, the postmodernist thinkers. So then we'll add those things ki some people have criticized modernity this way. Now you can give heading contribution of some of the early thinkers. Contribution of some of the early thinkers. This they will not ask in your examination, but this will help you to develop subject in you, because I don't want that my student sounds like they are being trained in an institute. Somewhere it is reflected in your answer writing. So, contribution of some of the early thinkers. In that, first is Saint Simon. Just few lines. Saint Simon. Saint Simon. Saint Simon. In this, you can write that. Saint Simon is often considered as the first sociologist, the first sociologist who advocated that first sociologist who advocated that a new society is emerging called industrial society. A new society is emerging called industrial society. Emerging called industrial society. And the evolution process of societies can be subdivided into following three phases. Can you recall it? I said in the last class, polytheistic, monotheistic, and positivistic. In three stages, they are polytheistic, that means believing in many God. Polytheistic, to monotheistic, to positivistic. Polytheistic to monotheistic to positivistic. And this evolution is, mind it, he is using the term evolution. This evolution is because of changing knowledge. This evolution is because of, rather, changing belief system, that would be better. Is because of changing belief system. Changing belief system. Is because of changing belief system. From religious morality to territorial morality. सो अब बोलो जय माता दी रिलीजियस मॉरलिटी, भारत माता की जय टेरिटोरियल मॉरलिटी, बात वही है. The moment you are saying it's the same thing. In one you are believing religious morality, in other you are having territorial morality. Territorial morality, right? So you are having the same concept. I hope you're knowing. That's why not here, but subsequently you understand that Gandhiji deliberately popularized this idea of Bharat Mata. It was this concept of Bharat Mata was more popularized in 1920. What in history you call it cultural nationalism in India. So in your syllabus, in second paper, we have one title called Social Background of Indian Nationalism, A.R. Desai. In that, you'll read this context, that what is this and what are the dimensions into it. So this is how he was the first who said that a new society is emerging and we are having territorial morality now. This is Saint-Simon. Next is Auguste Comte. Auguste Comte. Now here he also called as the father of sociology. These patriarchs, they have forgotten that mothers only can give birth. So that's how, by the way, this shows patriarchy dominated, you know? So Auguste Comte, the father of sociology. He's considered as father of sociology, jo bhi likhna chahe. Or just you can give heading the father of sociology. Auguste Comte coined the term sociology. Auguste Comte coined the term or gave the term sociology. Coined the term sociology, though initially called it social physics. Initially called it social physics. Social physics. And popularized the law of three stages. And popularized the law of three stages. Three stages. You need not to mug it up, but just for reference, he wrote series of books to be called as Course of Positive Philosophy. That is what he was talking about sociology. So law of three stages. For him, society has evolved from, remember, पिछली क्लास में बात की थी क्या? Theological to metaphysical to positivistic. Societies has evolved from theological to metaphysical to positivistic. Theological to metaphysical to positivistic. Again, let me remind you, revision is the key. If you're not revising it now, then gradually it will be piled up. So that's why better clean the plate. So that's why I'm doing myself a revision before I start the class, so that the entire things comes into mind. So theological, which is based on religious explanation. Metaphysical, which inquires philosophically. And positivistic, which is inquires scientifically. Chahe to you can write in one line that you can write that theological refers to religious explanations of existence, refer to religious explanations of existence, religious explanations of existence. So remember when you were a child, 1 or 2, 3 years old, all the explanation is religious. Bhagwan नाराज हो जाएंगे, भगवान ये हो जाएंगे, ऐसा हो जाएगा. That's how you were told. Gradually, you also got metaphysical things. कि नहीं, this is how it is. And finally, you're positivistic. You know what works. So theological to metaphysical to theological has religious explanation, that you believe that everything, God is doing everything. Theological. Then, while metaphysical societies try to inquire philosophically. Metaphysical societies try to inquire philosophically. And positivistic societies are based upon scientific observation. That's why Nietzsche says God must die now. It's a very famous quote of Nietzsche, God must die now. So positivistic is one where we had scientific inquiry, right? Making sense? Now this part is important for you as per August-Com contribution is concerned. I think this much we have done. Let's continue from here. Auguste Comte also said that while studying this society, what you should study, he used two terms called social static and social dynamic. What is social static? Something which is not changing. Something which is not changing in the society. And social dynamic is something which is changing in the society. He said we should understand both, that what are those forces in society which are changing, those things which are changing in the society, and those things which are not changing, and what are factors responsible for it. I told you earlier also, much later, this is what was rephrased as continuity and change. So knowingly and unknowingly, he was the first man to say this, that when you study humanities in general or sociology in particular, what you should look at, continuity and change. So in fact, if you see the second paper, which is where you apply your sociological knowledge, I often say paper 1 is the idea of the society, and paper 2 is information about the society called India. So if you see carefully, the B topic has been given what? Social static. And C topic is social dynamic, social change in India and the factors and so and so. So he said when you study society, try to understand what are those things responsible for static and what are those things responsible for change. So in a way, he is making subject matter of sociology. What you should study and where your focus should be. So when you're studying society, identify why this society is continuing and why this society is changing. Making sense? He also said one thing, that modern societies are characterized by scientific morality, not territorial only. They're characterized by scientific morality. And what is scientific morality? That now your constitution is based on some scientific ethos, scientific principles, and so and so. So I told you earlier also, you should not smoke, because religion is saying, religious morality, you should not consume alcohol because religion is saying, religious morality, and you should not consume alcohol because it causes cancer, scientific morality. So according to Auguste Comte, these societies, modern societies, are characterized by scientific morality. Scientific morality which understands cause and effect, and that's how he said what you should study in sociology. Halaki, I don't know, should I say this or not? I'm just wondering, but I think it's your right to know. Whatever Auguste Comte said and popularized, he himself later on said all that was rubbish. That's why many people don't talk much about Auguste Comte. बहुत बात नहीं होती अगस्त कॉम्ट को लेके, क्यों? क्योंकि he himself, due to some tragedies in life, in his personal life, later on he said कि ये सब बकवास था, and all these kind of things. So whatever, but I thought you should be knowing at least. So I'm just also preparing ground for criticism of these people, scientific temperament all. So this is how we got what Auguste Comte is saying. Then we got Herbert Spencer, another man, and Herbert Spencer was the one who used the term social static. According to Herbert Spencer, what is evolution? I told you in the previous class little about it. He was the one. Herbert Spencer and Charles Darwin happened to be good friends. And Herbert Spencer said, as Charles Darwin was saying, evolution is inorganic to organic. When inorganic things became organic, life started. This is what theories of Charles Darwin. He said, and from organic to supraorganic. The way cells came together and make human body, The same way, when human bodies are coming together, making another bigger picture, and that can be called society. So he saw continuity. Like from here, it seems that many individuals came together to make a structure. I can see this structure from here. If you stand here, you also can see that structure. That many people came together making a shape. So this is what he believed. When cell came together, organs came together, Homo sapiens came, and when Homo sapiens are coming together, another reality is created. Supraorganic in nature, which can be called as society, where they are, interestingly, they are different from each other, yet dependent on each other. You all are different from each other, dependent on each other in different ways. So this is how he believed that society is changing. And he also believed society is bound to have a structure to be called as social structure. Can you see a new term coming up now? He was the one who said that society is bound to have a structure to be called as social structure. And just by looking at social structure, you can understand a lot. जरा एक टेस्ट करके देखते हैं. Let's say I take a photograph of this class. मैं इस क्लास की एक फोटोग्राफ लूं अभी. And somebody 1,000 years down the line saw this photograph. आज के 1,000 साल बाद. Maybe an alien saw this photograph. And if he is of scientific mind, he or she is of scientific mind, what kind of observation that fellow can get? आप मुझे बताओ, इस फोटोग्राफ को देख के किस तरह के ऑब्जर्वेशन को वो देख सकते हैं? लुक एट द क्लासरूम, यू नो द क्लासरूम. ये फोटोग्राफ देख के आपको क्या क्या कंक्लूजन मिलता है? व्हाट काइंड ऑफ सोसाइटी दैट वाज एंड सो. कुछ समझ में आ रहा है उस सोसाइटी के बारे में? Obviously that society was populous. That society was populous because, the kind of seating arrangement. 4 seats equal to 1 in the Western classrooms, in the European classrooms. At least 3, if not 4. 3 seats putting together is 1 seat. Anyone can say it was tech-savvy class. So many screens, televisions, and light, and all these. Anyone can say it was technology-centric society, whatever it was. So, gender gap was lesser, the way you are sitting. In our days, we don't sit this way. First row, girls will sit, then boys will sit. That's how the arrangements were. Gender gap was higher then. Now gender gap is not that much. Can't you conclude this way? So, society was quite diverse. People from different racial texture, different, socio-contextual textures. It's there. So it was perhaps a diverse society. So social structure itself is a code of so many things. And he believed that we should study that how various factors together make the social structure. And this social structure is bound to have 3 units into it. 3 units. Something will be taking care of production, something will be taking care of redistribution, and something will be taking care of control of both. And this is where Herbert Spencer is coming now significantly. He said, and the one who controls the all. That's why he believed, while studying society, the political arrangement of the society is very important to study. Because that determines how the social structure is going to be. What are the political arrangements? Because that determines the rest of the things. So this way Herbert Spencer said, I'm sure that at least name is you're familiar with now. And he was the one who said there should be a social structure. And he believed that every social structure is bound to have 3 components. Something will produce, something will redistribute, and something will control. And the one whose control will determine the rest. Making sense? Don't you think the parliament decide how economic activity should be there? They make policies, and accordingly your economic activities get changed. One fine finance minister thinking of LPG and country changes. That's why you will read in 6th topic economic and work life, social determinant of economic life. So political things govern the rest. is what Herbert Spencer believed. And he also, I told you already, he was the one who believed in survival of the fittest. But one thing he said, on which he was criticized later, he said, how to study society? He said, do one thing, look at the contemporary fossils, the tribes, the tribes of Australia. In fact, if you see, it was Britishers and Europeans who studied the Australian tribes, and in order to control resources, they killed trillions of tribes across the globe. The entire Australia, if you see, you can see civilizations and habitat only on the peripheral side. All because they've butchered the rest for sake of resources. Less or more the same they have done in India, they have done in other parts. So that time a lot of tribal study was going on. So he believed looking at these tribes we can understand how we have evolved. So if you understand that how the tribes of India that time were, you can understand how we have evolved. Making sense? Now I'm going to introduce a very interesting concept to you. Very popular and cliche concept in this subject, sociology, but you should be aware of. That is called ethnocentrism. Now what is ethnocentrism? Ethnocentrism is when someone thinks his or her culture is superior. Then we call it ethnocentrism. There is one term called ethnocentrism, when someone thinks that his or her culture is superior. आपको नहीं लग रहा हर्बर्ट स्पेंसर की लाइन थोड़ी इथेनोसेंट्रिक है? What is tribal life? Tribal life is, eat, drink, and be happy. Isn't it? So this is how, so I'm not saying eat, drink, and marry. That to fir happy khatam ho jayega. So, eat, drink, and be happy. That's tribal life. And this is your modern lifestyle. This is what is going to be your modern lifestyle. Even when it comes to tribes, all the tribes in India, right from the beginning, in the tribal societies you'll read, in India, all tribes has one arrangement called dormitories. Invariably, across the country. Dormitory is a place where young boys and girls stay together because they're least bothered about the physical dimension and chastity part, which you overvalue, overrated kind of thing. Chastity is something which is overrated. So if you see this way, in those tribal societies, boys and girls stay together and they figure out whether they are socio-psychologically compatible to each other or not. Not physical compatibility. Social, psychological compatibility, and if there, then only they marry. So, seems to be prototype of live-in. So who is ahead? Tribes? You are chasing tribes? Or tribes are chasing you? Difficult to say. Or they are going circular, God knows. So Herbert Spencer was criticized to be ethnocentric. You can't call them fossils. They are different. Don't treat them as inferior. Am I making sense? In fact, this is the whole debate. That's why you will have, it's so interestingly written your syllabus. Trust me. The best part of sociology as a subject is, syllabus is so meticulously designed. Even in second paper, there's a topic in tribes called definitional problem of tribe. Because you think tribes in economic sense, and that's why they look inferior. If you see in the cultural sense, they're different. They have different culture than us. It does not mean they're inferior to us. So Herbert Spencer was characterized or said that your explanations are ethnocentric, and he was criticized for it. But yes, his influence in sociology almost for 50 years was so high, so that sociology was called Spencer's science. इतना भौकाल था इनका कि sociology was almost called as Spencer's science. So this is how we got Herbert Spencer. I hope this term is clear to you, ethnocentrism. इसका उल्टा भी होता है, and that is called xenocentrism. What is xenocentrism? X-E-N-O, xeno. Xenocentrism is when someone thinks that his or her culture is inferior. That's also not good. अभी हम समझेंगे प्रिमिटिव कल्चर में जल्दी टाइलर में. एवरी कल्चर इज नथिंग बट जियोग्राफिकल अडेप्टेशन. It's geographical adaptation. What is genocentrism? When someone thinks his or her culture is inferior. And that's why you see the people when they go to, in fact, I came from Eastern UP, and I can tell you that when people from my area come to Delhi, up to Ghaziabad, they might be speaking Awadhi. But the moment they enter in Ghaziabad, they start speaking Haryanvi, Punjabi, mixed tone, and abusing our own fellow brothers. कि कहाँ से आ जाते हैं दिल्ली खराब करने. Clearly indicating as if we are looking our culture inferiorly. As if, that language is inferior, as if the people using that language, they are poor, not up to the mark. Now this is what xenocentric approach, and both are not good. Ethnocentrism is not good, and xenocentrism is also not good. Many people are ethnocentric. Like, आप देखिए, अच्छा, did you notice why all the reincarnation happen in India only? बाकी रिलीजन, बाकी जगहों पे क्या हो रहा था? अच्छा, to be specific, all reincarnations happen in Uttar Pradesh only. Uttar Pradesh plus Uttarakhand putting together. You think down upon them, what kind of culture they have, about the Western people. They look down upon you, that what kind of culture you have. Each society has their own culture. And that's why there's another term, very interesting term in sociology related to this. Sometimes you come across altogether new culture. New culture, and you may get surprised. And that is what is called culture shock. Remember Peter Berger? I have told you about him, that he went to a place. And he was talking to that old lady. He went to a place, he was talking to the old lady, found the discussion very productive. Next morning, the old lady was missing. It was one tribe in Oceania. Peter Berger inquired, where is that lady? He was told that she has been cooked this morning. They were cannibalists. This is culture shock. ये कौन सा कल्चर है? झटका लगा ना हम लोग को कि ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? That was their culture. There are still cannibalists, though very few in number, but cannibalist societies do exist on this earth. Still, very few number now. That's why Peter Berger used the term cultural shock. When you go to a new culture, when you see anything, and if you are very ethnocentric, you'll be even more surprised. मैं अपनी example अगर बताऊं, I was from Allahabad University. Did my BA from Allahabad University. And it was last day of exam form filling. So I took the bus and came to Delhi. Midnight, I reached to JNU. I'm talking about way back, 1995-96. Someone from Allahabad University came to JNU. It's midnight. I saw youngsters, boys and girls, smoking there, roaming around. I said, what kind of society is this? Culture shock. And I decided, ab chahe jo padhunga main yahi. That was so affirmed that day, कि चाहे जो मैं पढ़ूंगा यही, no matter which stone I have to turn. Culture shock. I'm not kidding. It was not that easy to adapt those things. That's why people from different societies, for them, maybe that's where the conflicts come. We'll talk about it. So ethnocentrism creates conflict. Xenocentrism creates conflict. So what is the solution? In sociology, we say you should be cultural relativist. What is cultural relativism? Cultural relativism said each culture should be understood in its own context. That under what conditions this culture grew. So you should not try to understand that culture in your mindset. You should understand that culture in their mindset. So here I introduce these three words on the behalf of Spencer, though the word were given later on, but Spencer was criticized to be ethnocentric. The term ethnocentrism was popularized by William Graham Sumner. So this is how we got Herbert Spencer, and his contribution was that for a fairly long time, sociology was inspired by biological sciences, and we started giving comparison with the human beings, organismic analogy, and these kind of things. So this is how we got contribution of Herbert Spencer. Making sense? I hope I'm clear to all of you. क्योंकि बहुत, या तो आप बिल्कुल सुन रहे हो तो बिल्कुल नहीं सुन रहे हो, इट्स पो, द काइंड ऑफ साइलेंस इज देयर। या तो बिल्कुल समझ में आ रहा है तो बिल्कुल ही समझ में, बिल्कुल नहीं समझ में आने वाला सा तो कुछ है नहीं। I like sociology. One thing about sociology, and anyone might be knowing that famous quote about tango. The best part of tango is you're never wrong. Got tangled up, tango on. So that happens in sociology also. ऐसा कुछ बहुत technical नहीं है कि आप बिल्कुल गलत ही होगे. You always have that scope. कहीं फंस गए तो वहीं से start कर सकते हैं. That's what the beauty is. So this is how we got when we talk about what is contribution of Auguste Comte and Herbert Spencer. Making sense? थोड़ा लिख लेते हैं इसको. Yes, people from back. I hope it's fine for all of you. As of now, nobody's sleeping, so I'm expecting yes. All right, fine. So, क्योंकि यहाँ से दिख नहीं रहा उतना, I'm growing older now. So, you can give heading that. What we have written, Auguste Comte, law of three stages. Theological, metaphysical. You can write further that. According to Auguste Comte, this new society is characterized by Auguste Comte. This new society is characterized by scientific morality. New society is characterized by scientific morality. Scientific morality. Here is a question coming up. Vaibhav has asked, can you re-explain the term theological, metaphysical, positivistic? Why not? That's my job, sir. Theological, I said, which is based on religious doctrine. Metaphysical, which is based on philosophical explanations about existence and all. And then positivistic, which is based on scientific explanation. That's how Auguste Comte said 3 stages of theological, metaphysical, and positivistic. Now you can write that. For Comte, from the next paragraph, for Comte, the subject matter of sociology should focus upon, for Comte, the subject matter of sociology should focus upon understanding factors, responsible for social static and social dynamic. Social static and social dynamic. Social static and social dynamic. Social static refer to static refer to all those things which are continuing in society, and social dynamic refer to all those things changing in society. Social dynamic refer to all those things changing in society. All those things changing in society. As a note, you can write that later on, this phrase, continuity and change, became a popular approach. Continuity and change became a popular approach. In humanities. Almost in all subjects you talk about it. Popular approach in humanities. Right? Then, so this was about August Comte. Next is Herbert Spencer. Next fellow is Herbert Spencer. Herbert Spencer. Spencer is the pioneer of evolutionary school in sociology. Is the pioneer of evolutionary school in sociology. Inspired by Charles Darwin. I told you here they happen to be friends. Inspired by Charles Darwin. Just for information, इसकी ज़रूरत यहाँ बिल्कुल नहीं है. All that funding of Charles Darwin born voyage was done by Herbert Spencer. पूरा पैसा स्पेंसर ने खर्च किया था. Whatever the finding Darwin got. So needless to say, they were bound to be good friends. So ये अजीब paradox है that early sociologists were very rich, and sociology teachers are poor. That's the problem, right? By the way, but yes, early sociologists, many of them were rich. So Spencer himself belonged to big industrial family. And they, all that railway that time in the 18th century belonged to this family group only. So and now you can understand that how prosperous they might be. So that's how we got Herbert Spencer. Now, क्या लिखा आपने? Inspired by Charles Darwin, he also advocated that there is an ongoing evolution. He also advocated that there is an ongoing evolution from inorganic to organic to supraorganic. Inorganic to organic to supraorganic. Superorganic or supra, both the terms. And it was called supra, now we call super. Supraorganic. Organic. For him, evolution is the twin process of differentiation and integration together. Twin process of differentiation and integration together. Twin process of differentiation and integration together. Where on one hand they are getting heterogeneous, अलग अलग होते जा रहे हैं. They are getting heterogeneous, but at the same time getting interdependent. Let me give you a disclaimer here. This definition of evolution, I simplified it. Original Herbert Spencer's writing, we see, that goes in 6-7 lines. But the essence remains the same. The essence is that they were homogeneous, now becoming heterogeneous. I give you the example that earlier all amoebas were alike, homogeneous. Now each cell are different, heterogeneous. But all amoebas can exist on their own. Now these cells are becoming dependent on each other. So from homogeneous to heterogeneous on one hand, but at the same time from independent to interdependent. So this is how he called evolution is the twin process of differentiation and integration together. Even Durkheim has used this when he was talking about social differentiation. So he is the pioneer of evolutionary school. Fine. For him, for him. Like human beings, society is bound to have a structure. Like human beings, society is like human beings, society is bound to have a structure. Bound to have a structure. To be called as social structure. To be called as social structure. To be called as social structure. Structure. Which can be studied with the approach of organismic analogy. Organismic means compare with human beings. Analogy, comparison. Hai na? So organic means comparing it with the human beings, right? Organismic analogy. Organismic analogy. I hope the term is getting familiar to you. I know that some of you might be listening this term first time. That's why I'm taking all the time. Like if I compare society with the building, what do you call it? Architectural analogy. What Marx did. There's a base and superstructure and so. Here he is doing organismic analogy. Organismic analogy. So organismic analogy is where you're comparing with the human beings. So that's how we got organismic analogy. And he said this should be the approach, organismic analogy. To understand societies, after full stop, to understand societies, we can refer to contemporary fossils. We can refer to contemporary fossils. Contemporary fossils. That is tribe. That is tribes. Tribes. For him, each social structure is bound to have three components. For him, each social structure is bound to have three components. Three components. Social structure is bound to have three components. One for production. One for production. One for redistribution. One for redistribution. And one for control. One for control. That's how economic, social, political. Isn't it? Production is economic, redistribution is social, and control is political. Fine? And the way units of control are changing, society evolves. And the way unit of controls are changing, society evolves. और यहाँ पे एक दो तीन बातें और मैं I would like to talk about 2-3 things. Now, मतलब इस लिहाज से what he is trying to say that if you are doing welfare activities, it's not good for humanity. For him, those who are weak, they should die. It's survival of the fittest. It is survival of the fittest. Those who are weak, they should die. Is it right? It is justifiable. Those who believe that it is justifiable, they are also called social Darwinists. And in ethics, we have one school of the people, they believe this way. आज भी, even in modern times, set of people believe that those who are powerful, those who are fit only survive, others should gradually dissipate. Otherwise, you can't stop them from dissipation for long. उनका ये line of argument है. बहुत सारे ऐसे लोग हैं जो इस चीज को मानते हैं कि नहीं, जो वीक है दैट्स देयर डेस्टिनी. सो लायंस हैव देयर डेस्टिनी, लैम्स हैव देयर डेस्टिनी, वी कांट हेल्प इट. अगर कोई ऐसा बोलता तो आप उसको बोलते हो कि दैट फेलो इज सोशल डार्विनिस्ट. दैट्स नॉट गुड ऑब्वियसली. व्हाई? क्योंकि रूल तो यही है नेचर का कि लायन ईट्स लैम, बट लायंस डू नॉट ईट लैम्ब for future generations. They only eat that much of lamb which they can digest. So considering all these things, it's very important कि एक टाइम में, स्पेंसर के टाइम में, it was advocated कि if you're powerful, if you're might, you are right. Unless until Marx came and questioned it. Marx questioned the so-called powerful, are they really powerful? वो हमेशा डरते हैं इस बात से कि कहीं लोग डरना ना छोड़ दें. They are more scared. What if people are no more scared? Oh, rhyme हो गया तो. So this is how. So that's where relevance of Marx comes. कि he said कि no, the so-called powerful are not actually that powerful. So Herbert Spencer for fairly long time was popular because his ideas were supporting capitalism. His ideas were supporting that, okay, this is perfectly right to go and colonize a country. Go and loot that country if you could. That's why this idea was popularized also almost for 50, 60 years, unless until the other ideas came. So this is one thing you should know when it comes to Herbert Spencer. Acha, here, as I told you, ki this UPSC is never going to ask contribution of Herbert Spencer or contribution of Auguste Comte, because that's not in your syllabus. However, had it been JRF exam, had it been QET exam of PG, I would have said Herbert Spencer, like Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer also has given the phases that how societies have evolved. So according to him, it was traditional society. From traditional society, king and kingdom came. From king and kingdom, we got democratic values coming up. So this way, gradually, societies have got changed with the changing political equations. वो यहाँ जरूरत नहीं है, that's why I'm not going that far. उसकी, why to make things unnecessarily bulkier. But he said कि how from traditional to modern democratic values, phase-wise manner we have evolved. Fine. So this is how. एक चीज यहाँ पे और भी है जो हर्बर्ट स्पेंसर से जुड़ के आती है, बाद में उसको यूज भी किया टेलकेट पार्सन्स ने. चार्ल्स डार्विन सेड कि इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ इवोल्यूशन, जब भी इवोल्यूशन होता है, certain changes are threshold and the evolution jumps to next level. So there are smaller changes, and suddenly a point comes when it results into big change. Like we were amphibians. आपने कभी नोटिस किया? We still respect. I know those who are from biology can understand it more, or I would like to simplify. Whenever a baby is born, we respect the whole process of evolution. You are unicellular. From there, you become multicellular in embryo. You become multicellular. From there, you get chambered in form of what is called insects. In what? Complete water body, womb. Like sea. In water body. Then you gradually grow into your fins and all. And then after a certain time, spinal cord comes. Still amphibian. Spinal cords come. And then from you come out, means going territorial. Interestingly, first you walk on four legs. Then you become bipedal. The moment you become bipedal, this is where, now you start speaking. So every baby born respects the whole process of evolution. I was thrilled when I read it. कि हाँ, ये तो बड़ा interesting बात है कि this is how we all repeat the process. We all repeat the process in the mother's womb to understand that how it might have happened. The same way, ये डार्विन ने पॉपुलर किया था, ये सब चीज़ें उस समय पॉपुलर हो चुकी थी एट द टाइम ऑफ स्पेंसर. तो स्पेंसर भी ये कह रहे थे कि सोसाइटीज़ कंटेम्प्रेरी फॉसिल्स को देख के में समझ सकते हैं where they were, and from there we had come forward. That's why he said contemporary fossils, but later on criticized he is ethnocentric. Now, as a note, you can write here. I hope that statement was complete. What we wrote? Society changed. Now, as a note, you can write that although Spencer was very influential, although Spencer was very influential for Spencer was very influential for almost 50 years, very influential for almost for 50 years, 50 years, so that sociology was called for almost 50 years, so that sociology was called, I hope I'm enunciating properly, word samajh mein aa rahe hai, so that sociology was called Spencer's science, Spencer's science, Spencer's science. But later on, he was criticized to be ethnocentric. Ethnocentric. It's written on board with my poor writing. Ethnocentric. 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 Ethnocentrism referred to that approach where ethnocentrism refer to that approach where one finds his or her culture, superior on others, or culture superior on others, creating prejudices. That is what we call pride and prejudices. Creating prejudices. On the other hand, xenocentrism, XENO, on the other hand, xenocentrism, XENO, xenocentrism, refer to that approach. Xenocentrism refer to that approach where one finds his or her culture to be inferior. His or her culture to be inferior, and therefore has the tendency of self-submission. इससे खतरनाक कुछ होता नहीं. I told you earlier also, if you want to control anyone, somehow let them feel that they are inferior. And the best way to prove they are inferior, their culture is inferior. Then there will be self-submission. Look how helplessly we are learning English. Helplessly, I should say. Had not we have self-submission? I'm not against English. English is a franca lingua. You must know, because it helps you to travel across the world, to communicate to anyone. But this submission is not good. So the way we are helplessly. So this is where we got when we talk about ethnocentrism, xenocentrism. Now you can write that both ethnocentric and xenocentric approaches, are not good for scientific study of societies. or not good for scientific studies of societies. Study of societies. Societies. On the contrary, the right approach is cultural relativism. On the contrary, the right approach is cultural relativism. Cultural relativism. Cultural relativism, which advocates that a society must be understood. A society must be understood in its contexts. Must be understood in its contexts. Fine? So that's how we got Herbert Spencer. Again, I just want you to be a little, to have an acquaintance with these names and how things are evolving. Now, one more name I would like to talk about before I get into the second part of topic 1, that is sociology and other disciplines. And that fellow is E.B. Tyler. I was talking about culture. So if I ask you, what is culture? How you will define? What is culture? Yes, you cultured people. What is culture? A way of life. A way of life, agreed. Food habits. All right, inherited. Fine. Pakka. All right, fine. He's talking about something, that's why I deliberately highlighted that part. Yes, what is culture? You all know. Now, E.B. Tyler, who was an anthropologist and sociologist. Now, let me tell you, anthropologies, when we say anthropologists, that means they are having detailed studies of some of the societies. They are called anthropologists. That's why in second paper, your approach will be bit anthropological. Bit anthropological, when you're studying detail of a society and sometimes detail of the primitive societies, that's what you. So anthropologists and sociologists approach remain the same, but the sociologists are generalistic, while anthropologists might be specific about one tribe, another tribe, and so. इसमें और बात करेंगे, we'll understand the correlation between sociology and anthropology. That's why, listen to me carefully. Andre Bethe said a very good line. Say honestly whether you're getting this line or not. If you're getting this line, wonderful. Andre Bethe said, it is very difficult to be anthropologist in your own society, because you will have your own biases. Making sense? ये इस बार का क्वेश्चन है. अगर आपने इसी लाइन से शुरू कर दिया, job was done. When they've studied, they have asked the relationship between anthropology and sociology. And that's what I'm trying to say, as somebody has asked about the notes. Trust me, and I'm not bragging. आपके सामने paper भी है, पीछे भी है, कि more than 90% of the things will be in your notes. It's all how much you're revising it. Because I am not forgetting this objective, why you're sitting here. Once you're in the job, then we can talk a lot of sociology. No problem. But here objective has to be a bit clear. Now, E.B. Tyler studied societies and wrote a famous book called Primitive Culture. So what is culture? Culture is the sum total of all those norms, values, belief, art, artifact, all those things which make our social life possible and work as a potential guide. So when you are stuck in a situation, what do you think? You go here, you have a reference book here in the back of your mind. From your childhood you have learnt it. So when you're in a situation, you go there and see what rule book is saying. You have your own rule book. That's why, let's say you are smoking outside and you saw your teacher coming. You went to the rule book. Rule book says, no, not good, smoking in front of teacher. Isn't it? And maybe in some other society, they will ask, would you like to have, sir? I'm mentally prepared for that. It may happen. He would like to have such a. So, what is this? You have a rule book. So, you are hiding it. And that's why I can say it's good. कि आप मैं हमेशा मानता हूँ कि मुझे देख के वो सिगरेट छुपा देते इतनी इज्जत काफी है फेंकेंगे नहीं बहुत महंगा है isn't it? We should not be expecting they should be throwing it. I'm not soliciting anything. No, but then even बहुत सारे लोग दिखते हैं नजर तेज है मेरी may look like I am not observing but I do. So but then even we all have our reference books and that's why wherever you're stuck in any given situation you have a reference book, your memory, and on the basis of that you judge. Abhi if I show you photograph of something immediately you go to your culture. क्या दिमाग में आया? Your culture is guiding you. अगर ये मैंने यूरोप में लिखा होता they would have thought random access memory. Making sense? So how you took it depends on the reference book here. That's why that famous quote, you may take Ranjors out of Rathor, something like this. You can take Rathor out of Ranjor, but not Ranjor out of Rathor. You always carry here your society. I'll talk to you for 10 minutes and can exactly tell you which society you belong to, what kind of socialization happened, and all these kind of things. 10 minutes में आप सब बता दोगे. What all needed is to ask right questions. We'll work on it, don't worry. We'll talk about what is the scale and how the scale works. When I'll talk about Merton reference group, that how the scale, Bogata scale works. And even you can ask just 5-10 questions. And that's why asking right question. In fact, I love this thing. I don't know, maybe that advertisement, when a boy was saying flowery words to that girl, कि I can die for you, I can do this, I can do that. She said, ये सब छोड़ो तुम बस मुझे पासवर्ड बता दो. I think she was informed to know कि what to ask. बड़ी बड़ी बातें सब एक तरफ हैं, पासवर्ड नहीं बताया जा रहा. When you are ready to die, what's wrong in telling password? So we do that. Even आपसे जो visa questions होते हैं, वो ऐसे random questions नहीं होते. And I'm telling you again, I'm digressing, but might be of some use to you. Even in interview, whatever question has been asked might sound irrelevant, but that's not. This is just for an example. If I ask you, when you came here, how many stairs are there? Anyone can think that he's asking a random question. क्या मतलब है उसका? How many stairs were there? Now you said, sir, there were 80 stairs. I know it's just 2 floors. How it's 80? It should be less than that. 10 floor means 10, 15 stairs, maybe 20, 30, not 80. And you said 80 stairs. I said, are you sure? You said, I'm 100% sure. Because आपने तो बताया गया था आपको बाहर ट्रेनिंग में, मॉक इंटरव्यूज में कि कॉन्फिडेंटली बोलना जो कुछ बोलना. I will write in. बगल वाले से बोलूँगा, देखिए सर क्या बढ़िया कैंडिडेट है. आप मुझसे ट्रिक कर रहे हो ना, मैं भी आपसे ट्रिक करूंगा. क्या बढ़िया कैंडिडेट है सर. और आपके डोजियर पता है क्या लिखूंगा? अ फर्स्ट क्लास ब्लफर, नॉट सुटेबल फॉर सच जॉब्स. बिकॉज यूर हैबिचुअल है. झूठ बोलने की जरूरत नहीं थी यहाँ पे. Would have said, sir, I have not counted. Who asked you to count stairs? I wanted to check your integrity. और आपको लगा मैं आपसे स्टेयर्स काउंट करने को बोल रहा हूं. एंड आप बाहर जाके बोल रहे बहुत अच्छा इंटरव्यू हुआ था. बिकॉज मैंने ऑब्वियसली आई एम ऑल्सो डूइंग व्हाट ट्रिक यू आर प्लेइंग विद मी, तो आई शुड काउंटर दैट वे ओनली. नाउ यू सेड, सर, आई हैव नॉट काउंटेड. मेक सेंस. But maybe you are very lazy. So my next question will be lead from the first question. Now I ask something which you must know. अच्छा, have you heard of female Durkheim as your optional sociology? अब अगर ये नहीं पता तो इसका मतलब आप lazy भी हो. Lead समझ में नहीं कहाँ से आ रही? So I ask, say about Emile Durkheim, and suddenly you'll see your subject things has been asked. Because I want to see you are man of integrity. This is visible. You're not a frequent liar. But at least what you must know, how much you know. How sincere you are there. If that goes good, that's why some people, they think that something of factual nature is asked. Well, other thing, हमसे तो कुछ पूछा नहीं इस तरह को. वो डिपेंड करता है कि पहले क्वेश्चन से अगले क्वेश्चन की लीड क्या है. And if you are answering that, well and good. This is a good candidate. And let's say you said, sir, I have not counted. Your voice is fumbling. Now मैं कुछ और चेक करना चाह रहा हूँ पहले जो ज्यादा जरूरी है. How dare you have not counted? I increase my tone. I don't know from where these casual candidates are coming. मैं देखना चाह रहा हूँ प्रेशर हैंडल कर पाते हो कि नहीं. Another thing which is needed in this job. बुलाई तब जाओगे जब प्रेशर होगा. बाकी तो सबऑर्डिनेट्स अपना काम करते हैं. You will be asked only when situation is going haywire. Then I'll write candidate is good but cannot handle pressure. That's how some odd 21 things. थोड़ी सी इसकी बात वेबर में करूंगा. वेबर has given light की what are the characters of bureaucracy. So there we'll have some opportunity to discuss what they see in you theoretically, principle wise. So it's not apparently आपको लगेगा random चीजें पूछ रहे, but it was not random. Every question has a lead. And that tells ki what kind of exposure you have, what kind of person you are, and so and so. So your culture is what you carry here always. So I repeat again what E.B. Tyler has said. Culture is the sum total. I hope I'm making sense to all of you. क्योंकि मैं जो कुछ बोल रहा हूँ सब हाँ है तो फिर तो गड़बड़ है. No counter argument. All right. So culture is the sum total of all those things, norms, values, art, artifact, morality, which works as a potential guide to an individual. Now coming to his point. And this culture, we don't get inherited from generations, we acquire being member of a society. We acquire this culture by being member of a society. Making sense? That's why I told you those wolf girls. They have learnt in where they have been in their early days. That became their culture. Where I grew in my early days, that became my culture. And that's why it is said, if you really want, that's why whenever, in fact, there's a very famous novel, a movie has been made on that also, for the namesake. It's always difficult for the first generation to settle somewhere else. So if you are going to USA and getting settled there, it will be difficult for you. But for second generation, it will be very useful because they are born and brought up there. By third generation, though, no, in fact, I remember I met one fellow once. His name was some Anand. So I thought, must be Indian. So he asked, are you Indian? No, my forefathers were Indian. My forefathers were Indian. And he was saying he was more American, quite mixed up with them. But maybe the first generation which shifted had the problem. So culture is what we learn by virtue of being member of that society. This is something which is very important contribution of E.B. Tyler. It's not inherited genetically. It is something which we learn by being member of a society. अब यहाँ से हमें दो hint मिलते हैं. पहला, that culture is something which can be changed with nurturing. Culture can be changed with nurturing. And second, that's an ongoing process. Ongoing process. So primitive culture, in that he tried to say that what is culture? Sum total of all these things. And every culture is nothing but an adaptation. So what happens? We got a challenge. Let's say we got a challenge in early days, what to wear. What to wear. And we realize in India, maybe cotton is good. We might have tried with leather, we might have tried with something else, but we found cotton is good. And that's how it became culture that we should be wearing cotton. Now imagine what if temperature is minus 40 degrees now, due to some climate change. Perhaps this culture has to get changed, right? What is language? Part of culture? अच्छा, language कैसे emerge हुई? कभी सोचा? How language has emerged? What is language? How language has emerged? Anyone? अभी मैं आपको थ्योरी बता रहा था कि every child reciprocate the evolution. Language कैसे emerge होता है? Let me give you a quick reference. Obviously, I'm not going the detail of emergence of language, which are altogether different subject. But थोड़ी सी hint उससे आपको अंदाजा लगेगा कि how it is. तो फिर वहाँ से culture को बात और थोड़ी समझ में आएगी. Language कैसे emerge हुई होगी? Language is to communicate. Let's say I saw a lion eating deer. A lion is eating deer. अब मैं आपको कैसे बताऊं ये? Lion is eating deer. या lion has eaten deer. How can I tell you this? I'm making that sound. Oh, whatever. आपको समझ में नहीं आ रहा क्या कर रहे हो यार? What are you trying? That's why I say when you're playing dumb siras and all, actually, आप अपने ancestors को respect कर रहे हो. आपको समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि क्या कह रहे हो, कहना क्या चाह रहे हो. तो what I tried? I drew a painting. Lion eating deer. जगह कम थी, I drew this way. I was standing here, I drew this way. I was standing there, I drew this way. So मेरा अलग अलग language, Chinese written this way, Hindi written this way, Urdu written this way. So most of the languages were pictographic, initial languages. Pictographic थी. अब मान लीजिए आपकी पेंटिंग आर्ट मेरे जैसा हो. I told you I can draw only amoeba. अब ये नई प्रॉब्लम है. Not everyone is a good painter. So I did what? I made a code for lion. This means lion. This means deer. This means eating. कुछ आया? Isn't language coming? We got codes. Lion eating deer. अब ये अभी मैं इस क्लास के बाद नेक्स्ट क्लास के लिए ये क्या होगा? उनको लगेगा सीसैट की क्लास है. But you know, it means lion eating deer. Making sense? It became something significant for you, your culture. Let's say this means today. This means no. मैं अगला साइन वो नहीं बना रहा, नहीं तो रिलीजन की बात आ जाएगी. This means class. Today, no class. अब आपको कल ये मैसेज जाए तो यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट. बाकी के लिए क्या होगा? दे आर वंडरिंग क्या लैंग्वेज लिखी है 7-8. इट्स इन अरबिक 7-8. वो अपने हिसाब से सोच रहे होंगे 7-8, लेकिन आगे का 6 नहीं है. चक्कर क्या है, क्या लिखा है, बात क्या है? आर यू गेटिंग द पॉइंट? वी मे हैव डिफरेंट. इनफैक्ट दैट वाज वंडरफुली शूट इन दैट मूवी खुदा के लिए. जस्ट बिकॉज इन दैट thing, the numbers were printed, they thought ki it's something conspiracy. So if you see, this is how language has grown. We made codes, and these codes now should be taught our generation after generation. We have to teach these codes generation after generation, and that's how your culture became what? The point of nurture. So this is how language has emerged. If you watch carefully, even the youngsters are repeating it. कभी छोटे बच्चे को देखा? What they say when they are seeing dog barking, वो क्या बोलते हैं? भभो. Trying to reproduce that voice, भभो. When they say भभो, what mama says? No, that's called dog. Okay, next time we'll say dog भभो. Next time we'll say dog भभो. Mama said no, dog bark. Language आ रही कि नहीं? अभी बच्चा स्कूल गया. Says, ma'am, dog bark. मैम चुप रहो. Dog barks. Grammar. The kid is repeating the whole story. Became culture. So dogs bark, dog barks. बचपन में सिखाया गया तो नहीं सब. Simple. Culture is something which is nothing but an adaptation to any given challenge of the society. So whatever challenge we faced, we responded to that. That was codified in the society and became culture. That's why in every society, Tyler said that in every society there will be two things. Certain item of culture will be similar no matter they are far-flung. So if you see the culture of Siberia and the culture of Canada are quite alike, despite the fact that they are quite far from each other. Siberia culture, Canada culture is almost similar because of similar climatic conditions. Interestingly, culture of southern India and culture of southern Brazil is almost similar. पता नहीं आपको मालूम है Indian soap operas, एकता कपूर वाले serial, they are dubbed there in Brazil. They are quite in demand. ये कभी सास भी बहू थी, पवित्र बंधन, they all been dubbed in their native language, quite in demand there in Brazil. Culture is almost alike. Now this is surprising. but proving Tyler right that it is accommodation of the climate. This we can call as cultural parallels. It helps to understand that how culture grows similarly in similar conditions and can be changed accordingly. And there is one thing called cultural survival. This is again the influence of Charles Darwin. You know, in our bodies, there are vestigial organs, like nails, of no use, still existing. They're called vestigial organs. Similarly, in societies, there are cultural items which are of no use. Like I told you, you are lighting light in the evening. शाम को दिया जलाते हैं. Every household does it in some or the other way. Now, what is the point of it when you already have these many tube lights? But maybe in past it was very significant. Have you ever heard it is funny that it's your most important day of life, you don't know how to ride horse, still you're risking your life. I'm talking about wedding. You might be otherwise driving Audi, but that day you will ride horse, risking your life. Wear something like that sherwani you won't wear again if you're not lucky enough. You won't wear that again. Having sword, you know, what does it signify? ये बात घर तक नहीं पहुंचे बस नहीं तो. All right, so having sword, why? Clearly indicating this was how our ancestors were. That's on the most important day we try to be that way. Look around us. Waju, we do waju. Before our namaz, before prayer, what we do? We take water and we clean hand this way. This is called waju. Obviously, whenever water is lesser, we'll save it. When you walk in desert, don't you take your trouser ahead? That's when Islam, they say, trouser should be ahead of toe. So every religion, every culture, whatever they got, what kind of adaptation, but if it was very profound, very significant, stayed generation after generation, because it became my identity. They are called cultural survivals. Like vestigial organs. वैसे उनकी कोई significance नहीं दिखती. Still we do that. Still we do that because they were once very important. So with the help of all these, Tyler was trying to understand that what you should understand in society. So by looking at cultural survival, you can understand from where society might have come. From where society might have come. By understanding cultural parallels, you can understand that how society has responded to the given climatic conditions. And he used this to understand that how family has emerged, how religion has emerged. Now, he's the first man talking in that detail about family. कि families कैसे बनी होंगी. In fact, marriage, if you see the families, initial families were nuclear and mother-centric. We have proof. Nuclear and mother-centric. आप मुझे बताओ, जब आप बाहर मुझे कहीं देखोगे तो क्या बोलते हो? आपको मैं बाहर कहीं दिख गया तो आप क्या बोलते हो आपस में एक दूसरे को? सोशियोलॉजी वाले सर. जबकि मेरा एक नाम है सुनील, perhaps one of the most common Indian name. As Manoj Vajpayee once said, कि हाँ, Sunil is one of the most common Indian names. I have never been to any bus stop जहाँ पे सुनील चाय वाला, सुनील रे ऑडियो कॉर्नर ना मिले. It's almost impossible. जहाँ सुनील चाय वाला, सुनील बाबर, सुनील audio cassettes, every still despite being such a common name, what do you call me? Sociology वाले sir. यहाँ के दोस्तों क्या बोलोगे आप? Vision वाले friends. Did you notice one thing? You often acknowledge relations with its utility. Now compare this with the practice of Northern India, where wives don't take name of the husband. चुन्नू के पापा जरा सुनिए तो. Making sense? Tyler might be saying, I'm saying a lighter note because I told you that this is perhaps my job is gradually to bring you into the subject. This is called Kuwait practices. Technonymical practices. What is technonomy? Technonomy is when you acknowledge a relation with its utility. And almost all societies are having it. So, kahan ke rehne wale hain aap? What work you do? What work you do? Clearly indicating that how relations or cultures respect the utilitarian aspect. तो मैंने अभी आपको बताया कि whenever you are in a toss, let's say this fast, आज आपका फास्ट है, will you eat rice? Will you eat salt? Salt, rice नहीं, salt नहीं, wheat नहीं. What about cold drink? Depends. क्योंकि कल्चर साइलेंट है यहां पे. Culture is not saying anything. Culture is not saying anything. Isn't it utility aspect? So this way E.B. Tyler said each culture is actually adaptation. Adaptation to the utility. बहुत बड़ी बात कह रहे हैं. That means if needed, culture should change with the changing utilities. इस बार का क्वेश्चन है, वहां पे भी आया है जीएस में, that what if in the name of culture your progress is getting jeopardized or obstructed? Then culture should change. Because culture is to make social life better, not vice versa. So this way, E.B. Tyler explained what is culture, what are the dimensions of culture, what is cultural parallel, what is cultural survival, and he said that how. In fact, what is Kuwait practice, that's also tells something very interesting. I hope for my next statement you don't have much of objection. Who is mother in any society is a biological reality. Mother कौन है सभी को पता है. Whose father is a matter of faith. So when a female is having access to many males, as it was there in group marriage and all, group marriages existed. Even today, there are societies where it exists. Todas mein hai, at many places. So when there's a group marriage, how a lady can know who's biological father? Lady can't know who's biological father. Here I'm discounting DNA testing and all. Hashtag Andy Tiwari. पता नहीं है, मतलब आपको न्यूज़ नहीं पता इसलिए कोई बात नहीं. अब सर्च करिए जरा मैंने क्यों कहा हैशटैग एनडी तिवारी डीएनए टेस्टिंग. ऑलराइट, खैर. बाय द वे, जिनको नहीं पता, इन केस ऑफ एनडी तिवारी, फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम डीएनए टेस्टिंग वाज डन फॉर अ लीडर टू prove that the son which he was claiming is not his, is biologically his son. And that's how the property was transferred. It's a very famous case. Khair, leave it. So, whatever. In that case, who is the biological father? Difficult to understand. Difficult to understand. So what happens in many society? Among the males, one fellow will come forward and take the social parenting of that kid. उस बच्चे का social father बनेगा, जरूरी नहीं कि वही biological father हो. And to tell society, he will do all those things which that lady is doing. So when the lady is not crossing the water bodies, the fellow will also not do that. If the lady is feeling morning sickness, the fellow will imitate that. This way the other society will come to know that he is going to be the social father. This practice is called co-ed practice. अभी भी बहुत सारे tribes में मिलती है. Clearly indicating that, and that's why I'm sorry to say, if you see the institution of marriage is what? Domestication of women. Just to be sure I'm the father. तो अगर मुझे श्योर होना कि मैं फादर हूं तो एक ही तरीका है, if she's been domesticated and don't have access to others. यही तो है मैरिज. भला है बुरा जैसा पति देवता है. Her sexual content is kept at top. बहुत ध्यान से देखें. I'm not saying males conspired, ऐसा हो भी सकता है, but eventually this was the outcome. So that way he said कि how marriage were group marriage to polygamy to monogamy. He was the first to explain this with the help of Kuwait and all, technonomy, Kuwait and other things. And said that how marriages and family has emerged and so and so. Eventually adding one more subject matter, anthropological subject matter. So this way, यहाँ से sociology में जो anthropology का input है वो दिखता है. E.B. Tyler was one who told many sociologists innovate that systems of kinship and these things also should be studied methodically. So that's how we got E.B. Tyler when he talked about culture and all and these kind of things. Even he also said that how political institutions emerge, how religion might have come. Religion mein, he was the one who said the first form of religion was worshipping the ancestors' soul. Worshipping the ancestors' soul. Have you seen that movie Avatar? What they were doing? Worshipping the ancestors' soul. They believe that ancestor souls are around that tree. Even in India also, we have various tribal communities. Just for information, in this census, 2026 census, which is now official, thankfully, we are going to have one more category of religion called Saranavad. This is called Sarnaism. Sarnaism is actually about these worshipping only, those who are worshipping their ancestors, trees, and these kind of things. So E.B. Tyler believed that the first form of religion was worshipping the nature, worshipping ancestors, and from there, so first form of religion was worshipping ancestors. From there it moved to worshipping gods, and from there it moved to what is called metaphysical and being positivistic. So this way he spoke about religion, he spoke about marriages and society, family, and these kind of things. And needless to say, still the best source to understand what is culture and what are the dimensions of culture. So that was bit about E.B. Tyler. अच्छा, इन सब चीज़ों को मैं लिखवा रहा हूँ, इसके पीछे एक पर्पस और भी है. Let me clarify this to you. हालांकि ये अभी यहाँ सिलेबस में तो नहीं है टॉपिक में, लेकिन लास्ट टॉपिक में when we'll compare theories of social change, तो I'll club them all into one called evolutionary theory. So this way, what I'm doing is I'm trying to hit what is called two birds with one stone. कि पहले आप इन thinkers को भी समझ लोगे, थोड़ा acquaintance हो जाएगी, क्योंकि बार बार आएंगे लोग. And second, that in that topic we are also doing simultaneously. So this was about contribution of E.B. Tyler. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Needless to say that culture is the dimensional aspect, the dynamic dimensional aspect of the religion. Religion is more explanation, culture is more manifestation. Religion is the explanation, culture is manifestation of those things. That's why I say culture is the sum total of all those ideas and all, including religion. Religion is also part of the culture that way. And culture plus architecture and all is what we call civilization. So culture plus architecture and all these explanation is, so when you say Indus Valley civilization, you talk about culture of that time, you talk about architecture of that time. So culture plus architecture, another explanation is what we call civilization. So this way it was E.B. Tyler who talked about what is culture and what are the dimensions of the culture. Making sense? Is that clear? So I say, now I would like to repeat the entire of it. I told you about what Herbert Spencer said quickly. Herbert Spencer was the evolutionary theorist inspired by Darwin. He believed that there is ongoing evolution from inorganic to organic to supraorganic. He believed that evolution is what? Twin process of differentiation, integration together, where on one hand we are becoming heterogeneous, but at the same time we are becoming dependent also. Is this part clear? I also told you that according to Spencer, yes ma'am, supraorganic is more than organic. That's how. Means what happened if you see in the process of evolution, that various chemicals, various components like carbon dioxide, they came together to make C2H2O12, something organic compound came. Now similarly, once we got various Homo sapiens, various human beings, they came together. They came together means going beyond organic to make society. So the way cell came together to make body is in the same way people came together to make society. This is what he's trying to say metaphorically. So this is how he believed. And I also told you that Spencer believed that every society is bound to have a structure. This structure is bound to have three components: one for production, what you can call economic, one for redistribution, what you can call social, and one for control, what you call political. And the one who controls the rest. And that's why while understanding evolution of society, we should look at the way political institutions had come. Fine. He also said that to understand societies, we can compare societies with human organs or organismic analogies. And then he said we can refer to contemporary fossils to understand that. And then I told you that he also was criticized to be ethnocentric for this. Further, we move towards Sir E.B. Tyler, who talked about what is culture, defined culture, talked about what is cultural parallel, cultural survival, how culture emerged, and with the help of this, he tried to explain the emergence of some institutions. इसको हम थोड़ा और करेंगे और रिवाइजन भी करेंगे in the next class. So today I'll stop it here. In the next class, we'll try to understand from here one or two more thinkers, and then we'll come to that topic, sociology and other disciplines. I hope things were clear to all of you. And I must say one thing, being third day now, fourth day, I must say I found you good listener. Generally, मुश्किल होता 2-2.5 घंटे सुनना, I know. But ध्यान से सुन रहे थे आप. Thank you for that. Thank you for stopping by. And in the next class, we'll continue from here. Thank you.